Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops at Great Millstone. I'm your brother, Rabbi Knapp, coming out with a lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying to the Lord's elect. I found this on aljazeera.com. I'm going to get into it.
Trump sends U.S. immigration agents to airports as shutdown chaos deepens. By Al Jazeera staff, AFP and AP.
So the TSA workers are not getting paid, so he's going to be sending these ICE agents over there. So this could be the beginning of, Second Edges, the 16th chapter. As a matter of fact, let's go. Actually, I should open that up too. How come I'm not really? Okay. Let's just open it up. Continue.
Immigration enforcement agents will be deployed across major United States airports from Monday, President Donald Trump has announced, in an extraordinary move to ease a security crisis triggered by a prolonged political standoff in Washington.
Yeah, this long political standoff. You don't want to pay these people. All right? So he's basically, from what I know about the situation, he's using the TSA because the Democrats want to defund ICE agents. And they're using the TSA, I guess, because they fall under the Department of Health, the Department of, what's DHS stand for? Let's find out. What does DHS stand for? Department of Homeland Security. So he's not funding them, but he's funding ICE, and they want the Democrats. Let me just find out real quick. So the Democrats want to defund ICE based on recent political developments in 2026. Democrats have moved to block or reduce funding for ICE in response to the administration's mass deportation campaigns rather than a universal party-wide mandate to abolish the agency entirely. So yeah, anyways, let's see if she explains.
Trump confirmed the plan in a social media post on Sunday, with his senior border official Tom Homan named to lead the effort.
Oh shit, Fred Flintstone's back on the scene. Tom Homan. And they're supposed to be deployed across major United States airports from Monday. That's tomorrow.
This came after weeks of mounting chaos at airport security checkpoints, and a day after Trump threatened the move, unless Democrats back down on a funding battle.
So people are starting to quit their jobs because he's not funding them. They just went through a government shutdown. They weren't paid last week. Now they're calling out sick. So they really can't maintain themselves. I was reading today that there's reports of people sleeping in their cars because of the gas prices. That's an unsustainable system. He's supposed to pay you at the end of the day, like it tells you in Leviticus 19 and 13. But now he's going far beyond just even a bi-weekly system or a weekly system is wicked. But he ain't even paying these people at all. So he's the reason of the problem. He's causing the issue. And it's ultimately to set up these different ICE agents all over the place. He's found a way to take the blame off of him and put ICE in all, because that's a stronghold right there. So now he's in your cities, and at least every major airport. So if you let me see how many TSA workers there are, how many people you can actually put there. How many TSA workers are at Logan Airport? This is Boston. Just over 1,000. Okay. So, just to show you, man, because you might set something, they got a place there, then whatever situation, you can just add more real easy,
The crisis stems from Congress's failure to renew funding for the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, the federal agency that oversees airport security. Since February 14th, tens of thousands of workers, including Transportation Security Administration, TSA screeners responsible for passenger checks, have continued working without receiving paychecks.
Yeah, so imagine these motherfuckers checking your shit, man. These, you see how reckless they were with just how they were treating other people. Now you got all these people, and you're gonna use them. They don't fucking know shit. These are not people you want them defunded because they were breaking all types of laws. They had their face covered. They gonna have their face covered in the airport. Like, what's that gonna be like? It's gonna be hell, man. But we just gotta watch and see how these things are gonna work out. Ultimately, ain't not really nothing to be scared about, but it's good to watch what this nigga's doing. Because you don't want to be ignorant of Satan's devices. We know Jacob's trouble's right around the corner.
More than 366 have since resigned, according to DHS. And
366, that's Esau. More than 3. He always putting 666, man. He's full of shit. That's how you know Esau's in the midst of it, man. It's always a plan to do some shit like that. Revelation 13. In verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, and that's Esau. Genesis 36. And in 8, it says, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. It's just the spirit of Esau. Genesis 36. So it's everything is pointing to Esau. Being the damn devil.
Unscheduled absences have more than doubled, leaving major airports struggling to cope.
And that's all by design. If I don't continue to pay you, let's see how long you're going to work before you have to quit. This economy is not a system where you can't work and not get paid and continue to work. That don't make any sense. People miss a day or two, you're pretty much screwed. Everyone's living paycheck to paycheck. Even if you're rich, you somewhat living paycheck to paycheck. You might be a couple months out, but then, your mortgage constantly has to get paid. You got other bills, The way the system's built, the more money you make, the more you got to pay in taxes. The more you got to do, everything costs more. So everyone doesn't really have unless you just, like I said, rich. I mean, I'm poor, so I don't really understand how people can maintain not working. I see a lot of people that don't even work. That shit blows my mind. I don't know how I don't know if they're cheating the system. I don't know how they're doing it, but there's plenty of people that don't even work. That shit don't even make any sense.
This loss significantly decreases TSA's ability to meet passenger demand and leaves critical gaps in staffing, as each new recruit requires 4 to 6 months of training. It said last week in a post on X. Queues at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson and New York's JFK airports stretched for hours at the weekend, with New Orleans advising passengers to arrive at least 3 hours before departure. Union officials say some officers have taken on second jobs, while several airports have begun collecting food and gift cards for staff who can no longer make ends meet. Homan said agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, trained in law enforcement and immigration, not airport security, would take on supporting roles, such as monitoring exit lanes and checking identification, freeing TSA officers.
These stupid motherfuckers are asking if you're American. Like people have all different types of situations. They're too damn, imagine the shit they were doing in Minnesota, and now you got them in your airport. Probably the same motherfuckers that were over there. It's just, you got to be careful about this shit, man. I don't know what the plan is. I just know I'm watching them. I'm watching Esau, man.
To focus on screening lines. I don't see an ICE agent looking at an X-ray machine, he acknowledged on Sunday, adding that a detailed plan for which airports and how many agents would be finalized by the end of the day. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned the situation was, quote, going to get much worse before it improves. At the heart of the standoff is a bitter dispute over immigration enforcement. Democrats have refused to pass a full DHS funding bill unless the administration agrees to reforms of ICE. Their demands hardened after federal agents fatally shot two U.S. citizens, Alex Preddy and Renee Good, during immigration raids in Minneapolis in January. Democrat Senator Dick Durbin said his party had attempted 9 times to pass emergency funding for DHS entities, including the TSA, the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the Coast Guard. Republicans have blocked each attempt, insisting on a single comprehensive funding package for the entire department. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries warned bluntly that deploying, quote, untrained ICE agents at airports risked repeating the conduct that had already cost lives. In an unusual intervention, billionaire and Trump ally Elon Musk said he would offer to pay the salaries of TSA workers by Al Jazeera staff, AFP, and AP.
Maybe putting you to death at the airport. Anyways, let me start off in 2nd Ezra 16:1. Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Assyria. In Syria, let me look this up. Woe means death and destruction. Okay, Babylon is America and Asia. Asia is a continent. Okay, so let's look at Asia. Let's see what this says. Let's see what this means. Curious to see what this means. Woe be unto thee. This is not just a warning, it's a prophetic declaration of coming judgment. Woe always ties to the day of the Lord, then judgment hits kingdoms. Historically, ancient empire that oppressed Israel, Babylon, prophetically represents a modern system of wicked rulership and confusion, which is America. And GMS understanding this points to the end-time oppressive kingdom, spiritual Babylon. Yep, it's like it tells you in Revelation 11:8. You know, that's the precept that links this place with America. Revelation 11:8. These have power to shut heaven. Revelation 11:8. And their bodies and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. That's talking. The great city is America. The dead bodies are the Israelites. Okay, they're dead because they didn't know who they were, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Okay, it's because, you know, the same things that were going on in Sodom are happening here in Egypt because we're in slavery over here, where also our Lord was crucified. You know, that word crucified is staru, and it means to destroy the power utterly. Okay, or something like that. It says to crucify the flesh, destroy its power utterly. Okay, so the Lord, the understanding of our Lord was destroyed here. You know, they just look at the understanding of the Lord in this kingdom, and that's the same where it's getting pushed throughout all the world. Okay, these people don't know nothing about the Bible, but yet they're teaching it. So that links it to America is what I'm trying to say here. Revelation 11:8. Asia refers to regions under Rome/ancient influence. Asia Minor represents other nations aligned with Babylon's system, and that's pretty much everybody. Everyone has a democracy. Everyone has, you know, some Christian church in their country. Catholicism. So its influence reaches to the four corners of the earth. Meaning judgment isn't just local, it spreads to all allied regions. Egypt's symbol of bondage, oppression, and captivity represents systems that enslaves and exploit, and that's where we're at today. Ancient enemy of Israel, which is Syria, represents hostile nations on war powers. Symbolizes military opposition and conflict against the Lord's people. Psalms 83 tells you that every single nation, we're pretty much at war with everybody, man. All these nations have some form. They're all together, confederate against thee. Psalms 83:1, a song of the Psalm of Asaph. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Let's look this up. They that hate thee have lifted up the head. Pretty much, this whole world hates the Lord. It portrays a tense, menacing scenario where those who hate God lift up the head, acting in pride and defying divine authority and plot against God's people. And that's exactly what they're doing. All right. Your enemies make a tumult. The enemies are noisy, chaotic, and actively raging like crashing ocean waves. They are roaring out their blasphemies and threats against God and his followers. That's right. And they're doing it with their actions. One nation, Esau thinks, his enterprise is gonna rule. Moab thinks he's next. Russia thinks they're next. They're all trying to, even Iran probably got some their own little thing to keep things going, to stay in power. But they're not, none of them are thinking to be under subjection to Israel. That's the last thing that's on their mind. And that's rebellion against the Lord. Just that alone. They're not trying to serve Yasharallah. They're not trying to establish the law, statutes, and commandments. They want this place to continue and them to still be in power, where they can shoot nukes at each other and continue this folly. Those who hate you, the psalmist Asaph identifies the attackers not just as enemies of Israel, but as enemies of God himself. Their hostility is fundamentally against God's moral standards, law, and sovereignty, like I just said. Okay? They don't want the Lord to rule or his son. That's why they're going to fight him when he returns. Lifted up the head. This indicates arrogance, pride, and supreme confidence in their impending victory. They act with a stiff neck, displaying blatant defiance and pride. That's right. Because they trust in their military might. Psalms 83:3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hated ones. Let's look this up. The crafty counsel is that they all coming together to work against the nation of Israel. This verse is part of a communal lament by Asaph, describing a coalition of nations conspiring to destroy Israel and erase their name from memory, prompting a plea for God to intervene. So not just the nation, it's not talking about the nation that's over there now. It's talking about you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's the biggest conspiracy, to put you in give you a chip which you're going to die from, or put you to death. That's the plan that's ahead of y'all. The conspiracy enemies are described as using crafty counsel or shrewd plans against God's people, often referred to as hidden ones or treasured ones. So the hidden people, the lost tribes of Israel, is just talking about you. You're the treasured ones, okay? You're the Lord's inheritance. You're his lost treasure, implying those under God's protection. That's right. And you can tell that all these nations are confederate against you because they're all going to have plans to establish the MOTB, okay, which pretty much separates you from your God, but don't separate them from their God. Their God doesn't say they're not supposed to take the MOTB. They're cool with that. Their gods are cool with that, but yours isn't. The goal, the enemies seek to cut them off from being a nation, aiming for the total destruction and eradication of Israel's memory. That's right. They don't want you to think there's a chosen race. No, it's whoever got the biggest gun gets to rule. The context, the psalm calls for God to break the silence and act against those who are in league against him, as the enemies of Israel are considered enemies of God. That's right. So our enemies are the Lord's enemies. The listed enemies, the coalition includes Edom, the Ishmaelites, Moab, Philistia, Tyre, and Assyria, among other nations. And now, Ishmael's in the land of Ham, in Hamitic nations like Egypt, even the Palestinians, the original Palestinians or the Philistines were Hamites. Tyre, right now, Tyre too, Hamitic nations in Assyria and among others. But now they have, as a matter of fact, where's modern day Tyre? I forgot. Where is modern day Tyre? Mediterranean coast, southern Lebanon. So right now, who's in southern Lebanon? Ishmael. So Tyre would represent Ishmael now. Psalms 83 and 4, they have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." Because they understand if you be in power, they can't rule. If your power before you, then they can't rule. So they understand that. Judah chapter 5, verse 20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. So if we sin against our God, which is to transgress his laws, statutes, and commandments, the heathen are going to overcome us. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. But the Lord is going to defend. He's going to lift up a standard. Psalms 83 and verse 5. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. That's right. They have consulted together. That's what these major meetings are for. Israel's not in there. They're talking about the state of Israel. They're talking about the affairs of the people, what they're going to do with you. You're always in the forefront of what they're talking about. This verse emphasizes that the enemies are fully agreed in their plans, forming a direct alliance and coalition against God. And that's what all these heathen are doing. Everyone's sitting down with the duck. The conspiracy and the enemies are described as having one mind or one heart, acting in total unity. That's right. They're one in wickedness, just like the Tower of Babel. And they want to keep you at the lowest point. You know, all these heathen got something to say about talking shit about the nation of Israel, man. That shit about to be a wrap. So let them have their fun now, because they think they're going to rule, but that's their vain imagination. Their houses are going to continue forever, like it tells you in Psalms 49 and 11. The targets, their actions are viewed as a direct attack on God's sheltered ones or people. The alliances, the list of enemies include the tents of Edom, Ishmael, Moab, Hagarites, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistia, Tyre, and Asher. The context, Psalm 83, is a prayer for God to act against these nations that threaten to destroy Israel and remove his name from memory. And that's why we're crying out to the Lord now, so he can come and destroy them and take away their kingdom. Okay. The verse is the Lord calling out multiple major powers, not just one nation: Babylon, central wicked empire; Asia, allied regions; Egypt, oppression system; Syria, military enemies. All of them are marked for destruction in the last days. That's right. All these world powers that are against the Lord. This is showing that judgment is global, not isolated. I mean, Jacob's trouble, the whole world's going to be affected by Jacob's trouble. World War III is going to affect everybody. But the judgment is predominantly America and Israel. Okay, now, is other nations going to get hit? Yeah, they are. But are they going to get obliterated? No, they're not. All right. And honestly, I'm starting to think that after this place gets hit, they're not even going to have the capability. Those, whatever they got over here, I mean, I'm sure, you know, some places like, because, what am I saying? I don't know what country's going to get. I just know Babylon in America, Babylon in Israel is going to be destroyed. All right. Where am I? 2nd Ezra 16. And let's view the chapter, verse 2. Gird up yourselves with clothes of sack and hair, bewail your children, and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. So the Lord telling these nations, pretty much, gird yourselves with sack and hair. Pretty much, you need to mourn, bewail your children, and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand, because you about to get destroyed. All this judgment and destruction is coming to you, so you might as well bewail your children. They're alive now, but when the Lord bring that judgment, they ain't going to be here. You might not get the chance to bewail them. A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? And the sword is the thermonuclear destruction. Okay, so all these different world powers, these oppressive nations, all the wicked of the earth, they're going to get hit. A fire is sent among you, and Who may quench it? Yeah, who's going to quench the Lord sending this judgment toward you? Especially Asia too. It tells you in 2 Esdras 15 that Asia likened themselves unto Babylon. Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? Yeah, if the plagues are sent, the Lord sending the plagues, what is he that may drive them away? You can't drive them away. May any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood? So these are rhetorical questions. Try to get a hungry lion out of the wood. Drive him away. Or may anyone quench the fire and stubble when it have begun to burn? Yeah, we see a fire that already is raging. Good luck trying to put that out. May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? And that's right. Once those missiles get shot off, there's no reverse. You know, you can't reverse it so it can go somewhere else. That's not what's going to happen. All right, these missiles are going to be used because you people are wicked. The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? It's nobody. Nobody can drive the plagues away. They're coming, and if you don't believe it, then you're probably going to get hit with. You're going to get caught up in it. A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? Same thing. Nobody. No one's going to quench the fire of the Lord. He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? That's right. And that's going into the judgments. It's going to the destruction that's coming here. You're gonna be afraid especially when you see it coming. When you know it's coming, that's when you're gonna be in the most fear. The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? All right. That's right. And don't forget about Yahweh Shai. He's coming in the midst of it all. He's gonna be beating you to powder with those laser beams from this chariot. Okay. It highlights that no human can withstand divine wrath, forcing humbling, terror, and submission, particularly upon those opposing him. Beaten to powder, this phrase represents total destruction or being completely crushed, sometimes rendered as falling to the ground in fear in the face of God's power. So they don't even know what that means. All right. You should watch War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, when those aliens were turning people into powder. That's what the Lord's going to do to you. 2 Esdras 16:12, the earth quaketh in the foundations thereof, the sea ariseth up the waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord and before the glory of his power. So that's major destruction. The earth quaking in the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep. So he's describing the wrath that's coming here. Okay. Tsunamis and things like that. Let me grab this in Isaiah 24:20. The earth shall rail to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again, just like it says in Revelation 18:20. Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be found no more at all. Once it falls, not coming back. Fulfilling Malachi 1:4. They shall build, but I will throw down. Malachi 1:4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. So this is the last time the Lord's going to throw this place down, and it's not going to rise again. This is the fully throwing it down. Let me grab this in the book of Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 3. I start at the top, a prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigion Ganoth. O Lord, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. So it's talking about the day of the Lord. O Lord, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known, and wrath remember mercy. So revive thy work in the midst of the years, because what he did to ancient Egypt, he's going to do to this place. Okay. Habakkuk 3:3, God came from Teman And the Holy One from Mount Paran, Salah, his glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. Let's look this up. His glory fills the heavens and earth, signaling his sovereign authority in acts of salvation. This scene likely recalls God's triumphant historical rescues of Israel. That's right. Habakkuk 3 verse 4, and his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. Yeah, he had horns coming out of his hand. Let's look at this word horns. Okay. Of rays of light. So that's talking about Yahweh Shai. When he sends Yahweh Shai. That's going into the coming out of his hand, coming out of the chariots to destroy you. And there was the hiding of his power. Let's see what they say about that. His splendor was like the sunrise, rays flashed from his hand. Where his power was hidden, it depicts God's glory and majesty, often interpreted as beams of light or lightning, showcasing his strength and authority. So they don't know what they're talking about. Habakkuk 3 verse 5, before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. Yeah, before him went the pestilence. Ultimately, the pestilence are diseases, but it's really the destruction from the Lord. Going with the mixed with the Lord with those laser beams, because the Lord's gonna add fuel to that fire. Habakkuk 3 verse 5, before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. He stood and measured the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered. And this is the perpetual hills did bow. His ways are everlasting. So he measured the earth. So when he comes, he's gonna. Let me see. It says showcasing how his presence causes the earth to tremble and ancient stubble mountains to collapse. The mountains are the governments. It highlights God's eternal nature, contrasting his everlasting ways with the temporary nature of earthly, seemingly permanent structures and nations. His ways are everlasting. That's right, because that's talking about our Lord Yahweh Shai. Habakkuk 3 verse 7, I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Let's look that up. They're trembling in this prophetic vision, emphasizes the unstoppable, devastating nature of God's power as he advances to deliver his people. Yeah, so you heathen gonna be scared. You're gonna tremble. Habakkuk 3 verse 8, was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon the horses in thy chariots of salvation? So Habakkuk is seeing the destruction, and he's seeing how much damage it causes, even to the rivers and the sea. It emphasizes God's absolute sovereignty over nature, transforming chaotic forces into tools for salvation. Let's see what it says. Divine warrior imagery. The verse portrays God not just as a creator, but as a warrior fighting for his people. The horse and chariot symbolize his power, speed, and strength in intervention, salvation over nature. The rivers and sea are not the target of God's anger. Rather, they are used as instruments to bring about the deliverance of his people. Actually, they're going to be destroyed. All right. This is what's making Habakkuk afraid. All right. What he's going to do, he's seeing the destruction. And he said, are you displeased against the rivers? So that's how much heat, that's how much wrath, that's how much destruction he's bringing. Was thine anger against the rivers? Never mind the destruction of Babylon, but just other parts that, probably it's overkill pretty much. Habakkuk is explaining. Was thy wrath against the sea? Okay, just like it tells you in 2nd Esdras, the 16th chapter. Okay, the sea arises up with waves from the deep. If you hit your hand on water and that water comes splashing up, that's a tsunami. And the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand, which is Yahweh Shai, that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. And these arrows are talking about the thermonuclear missiles. getting through these articles real quick. U.S. debt surpasses 39 trillion, adding 1 trillion in 5 months. Insane.
U.S. debt surpasses $39 trillion, adding $1 trillion in 5 months. By Ryan Mancini. The U.S. national debt crossed a new milestone Wednesday, surpassing $39 trillion, a record reached 5 months after the debt sailed past the $38 trillion mark. The record-breaking amount was revealed in a daily statement from the Treasury Department. It comes amid the weeks-long U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran, which will add to the toll. Michael Peterson, CEO of the nonprofit Peterson Foundation, warned that with the new threshold comes a need to recognize this alarming rate of growth and the significant financial burden we are putting on the next generation. At the current growth rate,
There ain't gonna be no next generation. This is the last generation.
we will hit a staggering $40 trillion in national debt before this fall's elections.
No way. Well, of course, we're at 39 trillion now. I was reading an article, actually, I forgot what I was watching, but the reason why I brought this up, because they basically said by 2036, the national debt should double. So wherever it's just, and that's only what, 10 years from now? They're saying it will double. So that's the rate that we're going, but I don't think we'll be here by 2036.
Peterson said in a statement, borrowing trillion after trillion at this rapid pace with no plan in place is the definition of unsustainable.
That's right.
The Treasury Department's fiscal data shows that government spending in February reached $672 billion,
Just in February. Insane.
slightly lower than spending in January and December. The government had $799
Slightly lower than spending in January and December. That's insane.
billion on hand as of last month.
The government had $799 billion on hand as of last month, and then Pete Hegseth talking about another $200 billion.
Wars, widespread pandemic spending, and tax cuts have been massive contributors to the national debt. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said Sunday that the conflict in Iran has cost the U.S. $12 billion so far.
The conflict in Iran cost that ain't shit compared to what he's given all these other countries.
With no clear end to the military offensive in sight.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised when y'all go to war out there that he stopped paying y'all. He'll probably offer you all these types of incentives. Oh, we'll give everyone $90,000 up front, and you'll never get it. He'll hold back their wage and send you to war.
The conflict's impact on American consumers, resulting in higher gas prices at the pump, are the last of our concerns right now. Hassett said to CNBC's Becky Quick on Squawk Box, he claimed the U.S. is economically sound. White House spokesperson Kush Desai on Wednesday referred to a decline in the federal deficit last year, when President Trump returned to the White House. This astonishing decline reflects the administration's pro-growth policies, raising individual tax revenue. Government right-sizing push that has reduced federal employment to its lowest level since 1966. An aggressive crackdown on federal welfare fraud. Desai said in a statement to The Hill, as these and other initiatives continue taking effect, America's deficit and debt-to-GDP gross domestic product ratios will continue trending in the right direction. Peterson, however, warned that going into the November midterm elections, voters are rightly concerned about the national debt's connection with inflation and affordability. 9 in 10 Americans are worried that the rising debt is driving up the cost of living and contributing to higher borrowing costs. And voters across party lines are calling on candidates to address the debt. He said, citing his foundation's own poll released last month.
Yeah, but ultimately it's the Lord. He wants it to happen. So you ain't gonna be able to pay for all of that. Let me grab this. Gotta grab Habakkuk 2, verse 6. It says, shall not these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him? And say, woe unto him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. So it's just pointing at Esau running that debt. Because that word clay goes into a bocce. So he's using this debt to try to fund other wars and shit. But that shit's going to end up collapsing the economy. And it's going to be a great collapse. because first of all, you're causing all these wars, and you're strengthening everyone else's dollar. They're going to cut you off. Okay, and they're already building that's why the Strait of Hormuz is such a big deal, because they can get cut off from that. That's a big, huge impact. But he wants to do that. But you can't forget, it's about Psalms 83. These nations are confederate against the nation of Israel. All right, so the Lord told us all these nations. He included the Ishmaelites. And we know, according to 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter, that the Carmanians are going to link up with them and go and fight too. So they're fine with you being in the position. They're not fighting for the nation of Israel. They're not fighting for righteousness. They're fighting to try to stay in power and continue their wicked-ass governments. They're not looking for the nation of Israel to rule. They'll be happy if Esau leave them alone. And he's not.
Lebanon's Al warns Israeli attack on bridge, prelude to ground invasion.
See? Just more war. 2nd Esdras 16 and 14. Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. So the plagues, let's see what that's talking about. The plagues ultimately go into, let me grab it and put it in. Where is it? The different judgments. Did I drop it? The plagues, judgments from the Lord, destruction, famine, war, and pestilence. So the war's already here. The famine's right around the corner. The pestilence, we're not hearing about. Pestilence is different diseases, but the destruction is here. But they're already sent. And shall not return again. Once these judgments are released, they are irreversible. Right. The Lord is not going to take it back. No more delay, no more turning it around once it starts. Until they come upon the earth, the plagues are already sent spiritually, and they must manifest physically. They will hit the whole earth, not just one nation, right? This global judgment, economic collapse, war, pestilence, natural disasters. We didn't even get the natural disasters yet. Judgment is already decreed, it is in motion, and it cannot be stopped. Just like when the Lord judged Egypt, nobody could reverse it, not even Pharaoh, right? And these ground invasions, and I guess they bombed a bridge in Lebanon, so Israel's, actually I won't go into this article.
By Al Jazeera staff, AFP, and Reuters. Israeli forces have attacked the Qasmiyeh Bridge, a key crossing linking Lebanon south to the rest of the country, in an escalation that President Joseph Aoun called a, quote, prelude to ground invasion.
So they, not just ground invasion in Iran, but a ground invasion from the Israelis into Lebanon.
Sunday's strike on the vital artery and other civilian infrastructure came after Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz ordered the military to destroy all crossings over the Litani River and homes close to the border between the two countries. The bombing of the bridge marks an escalation of the Israeli military's campaign against Hezbollah, which resumed on March 2nd after the Lebanese armed group fired rockets into Israel in response to the Israeli-U.S. killing of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Aoun said the attacks on the bridge were an attempt to sever the geographical connection between the southern Litani region and the rest of Lebanese territory. He said they fell within suspicious schemes to establish a buffer zone along the Israeli border.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk around their tactics, because there's civilians that were told to go a certain place and those bridges are down. So what are they supposed to do? Just be in the battleground? So they couldn't even escape.
Identify the reality of the occupation and seek Israeli expansion within Lebanese territory. Katz had earlier said Israel's strategy of attacking bridges over the Litani River used for terrorist activity and homes in frontline villages to neutralize threats to Israeli communities was similar to the model used in Beit Hanun and Rafah in Gaza, where Israel created buffer zones by clearing and demolishing buildings near the border as part of its genocidal war against Palestinians in the territory. Later on Sunday, the Israeli army chief said the operation against Hezbollah has only...
The paper literally calling it a genocidal war. That's why I like Al Jazeera, man. I don't know. Let me see about Al Jazeera. I'll look at it later, but I don't think they have any no biases or whatever. I'm sure they do. I don't know who's funding them. I don't know if it's a print news or what, but at least you can press play on their articles.
Begun and would be prolonged. We are now preparing to advance the targeted ground operations and strikes according to an organized plan, Lieutenant General Ayel Zamir said in a statement. The Lebanese government has outlawed Hezbollah military activity and said it wanted to engage in direct talks with Israel. Earlier this month, Katz had warned the Lebanese government it would face infrastructure damage and territorial losses unless Hezbollah was disarmed, as agreed in a 2024 ceasefire that ended a year of cross-border fighting. Wanton destruction. Ramzi Qais, Lebanon researcher at Human Rights Watch, told news agency Reuters that destroying homes in southern Lebanon wholesale would amount to wanton destruction, which is a war crime. He added that international law requires armed actors to take into account the civilian harm caused by strikes on infrastructure like bridges, even if the targets were being used for military purposes. If all these bridges are struck, and the region that is south of the Litani becomes isolated from the rest of the country, then the civilian harm is going to be so immense that you have a humanitarian catastrophe, as people still living in the south won't be able to access food, medicine, and other basic needs, he said.
So everyone's going to be faced with that, even over here.
Lebanon's health ministry said 4 people were killed on Sunday in 2 strikes in the south. It said 1,029 had been killed and more than 1 million displaced in almost 3 weeks of conflict, which erupted amid a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah that the former had repeatedly violated. Earlier, an Israeli was killed in his car near the border with Lebanon after what the military described as a launch from Lebanese territory. It was the first Israeli civilian death linked to fire from Lebanon in the current war. 2 Israeli soldiers have also been killed in fighting in southern Lebanon. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot met with his Israeli counterpart, Gideon Sa'ar, in Jerusalem on Friday, telling reporters that he had expressed France's reservations about a ground operation of significant scale and duration by Al Jazeera staff, AFP, and Reuters.
So another issue brewing in Lebanon, all in the Middle East. So it's just continually increasing. So the plagues are already set. Let's view this chapter. Second Ezra 16 and 15. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundations of the earth, right? The fire is already kindled. Like it tells you in the book of Luke 12, verse 49. Let's grab that real quick. Okay, Luke 12, verse 49. I am come to send fire on the earth, and what will I if it be already kindled? Let's read this in the NLT. Luke 12, verse 49. I have come to set the world on fire, and I wish it were already burning, and it's already burning. So the fire is kindled already with all these different wars kicking off. And it's going to, at the height of it all, the Lord's going to come and really put this place on fire. 2 Ezra 16 and 16, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. So they're going to be sent, and they're going to do what they were created to do. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? That's Ezra. Just like Habakkuk, afraid of the vision that he's seeing, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? So we're in the same spirit. We don't know every detail. You read the book of Esdras. Esdras was trying to get all the information. He got enough, but we got to rely on faith. Second Esdras 16:20. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. So they're not going to turn from their wickedness. All these things are going on. People are going to continue to be in their wickedness. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth. Victuals are your food, different products that you buy from the stores. They shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And that's what we're seeing now. Even the price of gas, you really can't complain about it, because other places it's even worse. I mean, Cuba don't even have any gas, so how can you really complain? The fact that you can still go buy gas is a luxury right now. There's countries that they don't even have electricity. So the fact that, people ain't even really complaining like that. But people are losing their jobs, just like the TSA workers, and these evils are growing. 2 Esdras 16, verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. And that's right around the corner. With the price of gas, that's going to reflect in the things that you buy. And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, because people are not going to be able to feed themselves, and they're going to look for alternative ways to do so. Whether it be robbing you'd be surprised what people will rob you for when they ain't got it, man. You might be a target going to the supermarket. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, meaning there's going to be a lot of dead bodies, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. There shall be no man left to till the ground and to sow it. That's going into work. Ain't going to be no work. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? Same thing. Okay? Right now, you rely on shipments from your store. No one's, there's other companies gathering the grapes and all of that and fruits, but you expect them to be in your supermarkets, and it's not going to be so. The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, because of the different wars that will be kicking off, matching up with Isaiah the 3rd chapter. It's going to be desolate of men. Isaiah 3 and verse 25. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty men mighty in the war. So that's where it's going to happen. You're going to die in the war. You're going to be going into Iran, different other places in the Middle East. Lebanon seems to be a battlefield. Okay. They might require you to go there. Who knows? He sent 200 troops there earlier when the ceasefire was being implemented with the Gaza. I forgot who was he fighting in Gaza? Hamas. It was a peace deal that had to be negotiated to release the hostages and things like that. He sent troops over there already. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're coordinating these strikes that are going on in Lebanon, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. 2 Esdras 16 and 27, because then it's just going to be like I Am Legend. He couldn't even talk then. He was like, one man didn't see, it's going to get bad out here, man. Second Esdras 16 and 28, for of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. So people are going to be hidden. People are not going to be, let me grab this. Let's see how it explains this. A city, large populations, 10 left, extreme scarcity of survivors. This is showing mass death and destruction. Out of entire populations, only a tiny remnant survives. And 2 of the field. The field represents rural areas outside cities. Even those who flee the cities won't escape judgment. Death still follows. No place is truly safe except under the Lord's protection. That's right. That's going into Jacob's trouble. which shall not hide themselves. Survivors will be in fear and desperation. Society collapses, people running, hiding, isolating. This is not normal life anymore. No order, no protection, just survival. In the thick groves, dense forests, wilderness areas, people fleeing into a nature to escape war, famine, chaos. It tells you later on in the chapter, we shall be like pilgrims in the earth, and in the clefts of the rocks, clefts, cracks, caves, in rocks, mountains. This is people trying to hide from judgment, similar to the prophecy elsewhere. Okay, this verse is painting a picture of near total destruction, very few survivors, people reduced to hiding like animals. It's showing how bad it gets. Cities wiped out, countryside unsafe, survivors scattered and hiding. Then you got to worry about Edomites. And other nations too. A bunch of fucking heathen, man. We need the Lord to direct our steps. Second Ezra 16 and verse 29, as in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives. Or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. So they ain't gonna be shit. There ain't gonna be anything, man. Even so, in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. And you're gonna be looking for food. And it ain't gonna be there for a lot of y'all. The Lord's gonna make sure, his elect eat, however he does that. But a lot of y'all ain't gonna eat. You're gonna perish by it. Even so, in those days, talking about the same time period as the previous verses, plagues, famine, war, total societal collapse. This is the time of Jacob's trouble. And I was going with TSA agents, because you ain't gonna be able to go into a city. They might expand from there to checkpoints, to everything, man. We getting to that point. Nothing's by coincidence. There shall be 3 or 4 left, again showing very few survivors out of entire households or areas. Only a handful remain. Massive death, the Most High preserving only a remnant. By them that search their houses, this is invasion/persecution, armed forces or enemies going house to house. Not random chaos. This is organized. Military sweeps, forced entry, people being hunted. Right, with the sword. Sword equals destruction, warfare, killing instrument. The modern day sword is a gun. Represents modern weapons, military force, execution, and violence. So you're going to have to escape all that stuff. This verse is describing martial law/invasion type conditions. People being hunted inside their own homes. Only a few survivors escaping. It's showing that nowhere is safe, not even your own house, right? So you got to constantly keep it moving. And who knows where. There's only so many woods you can go into. And you don't know who's going to be up in there. There's already people living in the woods. Second Ezra 16, verse 32, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel therethrough. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers, right? You women going to be fucked during that time, because you ain't going to have no one to help you. That's hence why a man shall be more precious than fine gold. Grab that. Isaiah 13 and 12, I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Let's look this up. This verse signifies a severe upcoming divine judgment, specifically against the arrogant and wicked nation of Babylon. It portrays extreme destruction where human life will be scarce due to slaughter and panic, highlighting the swift downfall of the proud. Imagery, the contrast between man and gold of Ophir, an exceptionally pure gold mentioned in 1 Kings 9, verse 28. Let's go there real quick. 1 Kings 9. Verse 28. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold 420 talents and brought it to King Solomon. I believe Ophir is here in America. Ophir, reducing to ashes. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Fine gold, a land or city in southern Arabia, in Solomon's trade route, where gold evidently was traded for goods. But he also brought ships over here to Ashtaroth, and I forgot what chapter that is. Probably 1 Kings, the 9th chapter. Can't think where the precept is. Second Edges 16 in verse 34. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. That's right. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed. All right. So when they leave, they ain't coming back. Hear now these things and understand them, ye servants of the Lord. Behold the word of the Lord, receive it. Believe not the gods of whom the Lord spake. Yeah, these false gods. Behold, the plagues are draw nigh and are not slack. They're already sent. As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. So just like a pregnant woman with those pains, they, as she gets closer to the liver, those contractions are closer together. O my people, 2 Edges 16 and 40, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. So we can't, if you're going to be a pilgrim upon the earth, you got to be content with food and raiment. You're going to be on the run soon. Or you're going to take the chip or get put to death. That's the other two options. And if that's pretty much both of those options are death. You're supposed to be being made ready to the battle. He that selleth, let him be as that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. So, even if you can't have anything in this, you got to be ready to drop it all, keep it moving. Even if you, got some type of business here, you got to be as he that fleeth away, man. You got to leave that shit. 2 Edges 16 and 42, he that occupieth merchandise as he that have no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that shall not dwell therein. He that soweth as if he should not reap, so also he that planteth the vineyard as he that shall not gather the grapes. That's right. Got to leave the world behind. Be as a pilgrim. They that marry as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers. So you married, it's going to be like they that shall get no children. And therefore they that labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits, and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses, and take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. Right? During that time, your kids ain't even going to be safe. They're pretty much not already safe with, these different situations that are going on. They taking people, separating people from their families. And Esau's a base man. He's not the person that, this is the worst nation in the earth, man. All right? You don't want your kids and your daughters, around any of these pieces of shit. You want to be praying to the Lord. These dumb fucks would do some evil shit, man. Look at who their king is, man. So if you think it's a joke, you better get your shit together, or you going all these plagues and your children, your famine, and all of that. You're going to get all of it. 2 Edges chapter 16, verse 47. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, the more will I be angry with them for their sins, saith the Lord. So the more you get comfortable here, the more angry the Lord's going to get with you. Like as a whore envieth a right, honest, and virtuous woman, so shall righteous hate iniquity when she decketh herself. and shall accuse her to her face when he cometh, that shall defend him that diligently searcheth out every sin upon earth. That's right. So shall righteousness hate iniquity. You're supposed to hate evil, man. Not try to cope with it so you can live a good life. You're supposed to flee away from it. Because if you don't condemn it, it's going to corrupt you. 2 Ezra 16, verse 51, and therefore be ye not like thereunto, nor to the works thereof. So you ain't supposed to be like them. For yet a little while, and iniquity shall be taken away out of the earth, and righteousness shall reign among you. That's right. Iniquity shall be taken away out of the earth. That's what the Lord's coming to do. Okay. What was it's a lot. 2 Ezra 16, verse 53, let not the sinner say that he have not sinned, for God shall burn coals of fire upon his head, which saith before the Lord God in his glory, I have not sinned. Yeah, we all sinned against the Lord. You can read about that, Daniel, the 9th chapter. Everybody in the nation of Israel have sinned. In Ecclesiastes 7 and 20. Let me grab that precept real quick. So ain't nobody perfect, man. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 20, for there is not a just man upon earth that doeth good and sinneth not. So there ain't nobody on the earth that doeth good and sinneth not. So don't fool yourself. Behold, the Lord knows all the works of men, their imaginations, their thoughts, and their hearts, which spake but the word, let the earth be made, and it was made, let the heaven be made, and it was created. In his word were the stars made, and he knoweth the number of them. So you can't fool the Lord, you can't lie to him. He knows everything. And he knows who you are, what you're thinking. That's why you want to be in that humble, repentive spirit. 2 Ezra 16, verse 57, he searcheth the deep and the treasures thereof. He hath measured the sea and what it containeth. He hath shut the sea in the midst of the waters, and with his word hath he hanged the earth upon the waters. He spreadeth out the heavens like a vault. Upon the waters have he founded it. So the Lord he's almighty, man. He's done that. He created everything, with his wisdom. All right. He's the source of it all. So there's not, you can hide from him. You got to respect the power that's like that. You got to just keep his law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. And you got to wait upon him. You got to have faith. You got to be persuaded in your own mind, and you got to be obedient. 2 Ezra 16, verse 60, in the desert have he made springs of water and pools upon the tops of the mountains, that the floods might pour down from the high rocks to water the earth. And that's talking about this word going out the way it is today, constantly going out. He got men teaching this word, breaking it down. Everyone should be on a level about what the Lord's about to do, especially within the nation of Israel. And if you ain't got that knowledge, man, you in the desert still, and you ain't found any water. 2 Ezra 16, verse 61, he made man and put his heart in the midst of the body and gave him breath, life, and understanding, just like he did with Adam, Genesis, the 2nd chapter. But that breath is this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. 2 Ezra 16, verse 62, yea, in the spirit of the Almighty God, which made all things and searcheth out all the hidden things and the secrets of the earth. Surely he knoweth your inventions and what ye think in your hearts, even them that sin and would hide their sin. Therefore have the Lord exactly searched out all your works, and he will put you all to shame, right? So everyone's going to get what they deserve at the end of the day. So this is why we want to be diligent, put on as the elect, and because we all need a pardon from the Lord. Or because he won't, if you don't get pardoned, if you ain't part of that number, you're going to be destroyed, ultimately. So we hope that we just the hopeful elect, and we just try to please the Lord to the best of our ability. hoping that he have mercy on us in these last days. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 65. And when your sins are brought forth, ye shall be ashamed before men, and your own sins shall be your accusers in that day. So you don't want your sins to be accused of you, man. You want to hope that you're pardoned. You want to hope that Yahweh Shah is speaking on your behalf. But he ain't going to be speaking on somebody that, like he tells you in Mark 8, verse 36. If you ashamed of him, he going to be ashamed of you in that day. He's like your lawyer, so you want to do all the work that put in the good works that you can. Now that you can, during this grace period. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 66. What will ye do, or how will ye hide your sins before God and his angels? Especially when that's going to be too late. The whole point of being a pilgrim in the earth, you pretty much going through the refining process. Now, the only way to make it through there is being obedient. But if you would lackadaisical, so to speak, during this grace period, you ain't gonna have enough faith to make it through. And you're not even gonna understand why you need to act a certain way. He might get you out early. You might think it's better to take the chip, like a lot of y'all are, especially a lot of women, because they're not gonna have the mindset. They're gonna have the mindset of Lot's wife. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 67. Behold, God himself is the judge. Fear him, leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall God lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble, which is talking about Jacob's trouble. He's going to deliver you and lead you. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they start turning these airports into, detention centers and shit, or putting some form of it, using that as a, to deport your ass or something. Who knows, man? Who knows? Second Ezra 16, verse 68. But the burning wrath is talking about these different, like these FEMA troops, pretty much going into martial law. And they shall take away certain of you, Revelation 2, 9 and 10, or 2 and 10, let's grab it. Shall go into prison. Revelation 2, verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give thee a crown of life. Okay. So you got to be faithful unto death, even going through the afflictions. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. Now, when they put you in these jails, they're going to be giving you that MOTB. And this is what you don't want. Idle means to not. It says not to work, no employment. So there's no other, going into Revelation 13, verse 16. Revelation 13, verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to participate in society. And the way he might set it up is where if you don't, they're probably going to be calling you all type of T's, man. Oh, you ain't trying to make it a better place and, all this bullshit. So, fuck this nigga, man. Second Edges 16, verse 69. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. So even if they torture you, and they that consent, you consent to taking the MOTB, unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach. So no matter what they do to you, if you take it, you're going to be trodden underfoot, meaning you're going to be destroyed. All right? You're going to get the grievous sore. Revelation 14 and 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his right hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever. And they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Yahweh Shai. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, right blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. So there you go. Doom for the worshipers of the beast. When you take that chip, it's because you worship Esau. That's your God. He's branding you. Second Edges 16, verse 69. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. So those who fear the Lord are the men of the Lord. All right, those of us who stand stiffly for the name of the Lord, that's the great insurrection is upon you. That's what all this is about, to kill the witnesses. He wants to kill all the elect, so by default he wins, but he ain't gonna be able to get us all. So, and plus, simultaneously while that's happening, war's kicking off, people are dying. The MOTB is going to be giving people grievous sores. So it's going to be a beautiful time. Second Edges 16, verse 71. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So being like a madman, sparing none, they're just going to be putting people to death ruthlessly. They're not going to be giving a fuck in that time. Ain't gonna be no laws. Ain't gonna, the duck's gonna allow him to get away with whatever. And who knows? He might even send them small hats to do the work. They good at doing that work. They don't give a fuck. They'll put kids to death. So if they're the type to put kids to death, they ain't got no problem putting you to death. All right, they already hate you motherfuckers anyways. They hate, even if you're American, you're a white American, they'll blow you away. I believe some of these motherfuckers that are these ICE agents are probably just that. That's probably what they are. And those are the type of people that's gonna be, and they like to grape men too. So the basis of men. All right, they like to grape men, grape kids, drink blood, dip their bullets in pig fat. They're weird, man. So if you understand the fear of the Lord, you be seeking him. He got the worst nation in power right now. Second Edges 16, verse 72. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. So you want to stay in your house? Good luck. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. That's right. He told you he going to make a man more precious than fire gold. You're going to be tried. Hear, O ye my beloved. So it's talking about the house of David. Okay, beloved. David means beloved. What does David's name mean? Beloved. All right. It is most famously associated with the biblical King David, the second king of Israel, making it a perennially popular classic name signifying a cherished and loved individual. So the Lord loves his elect. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So he's not talking to everybody in Israel, man. He got a beloved, he got a choice he got his first fruits. Okay, that's who the Lord is going to be delivering. 2/3, you're dead. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 75. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for God is your God. So he's guiding the elect of Israel. And the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord God, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. So you're supposed to let your sins weigh you down. That's why you got to be built up, because they're going to be an accuser for you in that day. That's going to be the reason why you're going to feel condemned in your spirit and go take the chip, because you're going to feel like you ain't worthy enough when you should have been making your calling and election sure to the best of your ability. But all those days you missed, all those days you were slacking, that's all that shit's going to compile on itself to the point where you fall out. That's the times that we're coming in. It's deeper than just doing videos, man. You got to be persuaded in your own mind, according to Romans 14:5. If you ain't persuaded in your own mind, you ain't going to make it. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 76. Verse 77, woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns, that no man may travel through. So your path isn't cleared because you don't do the work. You're supposed to know what you need to know, man. That's what, gives you you see the path. Okay? And it's keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. But if you ain't keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, the Lord's pretty much not giving you the wisdom to do so, so you're going the wrong way. 2nd Ezra 16, verse 78, it is left undressed and is cast into the fire to be consumed therewith. So it is left undressed. You're gonna be destroyed. That path leads to destruction. And I'm gonna end it here. Lord's will, this was edifying. Shalom.